can just start with our introductions as we do every week. Let's just keep them short. I'm Brandon. I'm a longtime editor in the deep tech space, and I'm happy to be here in DevHeads and hear what all you guys are working on and how things are going for you. Srisha, do you want to go next?
Hi guys. So there are some new people today joining as well. So I am Shrisha. So I am from Bangalore. So I am an embedded engineer. So I work on embedded stuff and IoT related stuff. So I also do some hardware design, which includes like PCB design as well. So that is my area of expertise. So hello again then.
Cool. Petter, you want to go?
Thank you. I'm Petr from Czech Republic. I'm freelancing hardware design engineer.
Hemal, I don't think you've joined us before. Do you want to say hi?
Hi everyone. My name is Hemal, currently in Dubai, also a hardware engineer. I just want to keep it short. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Mike, you want to go?
Yeah, Mike Fran. I started my career in hardware engineering and got into the IoT space long ago, and now I'm more on the business technical side of things, doing some fractional work for a couple different IoT companies at the moment.
Great. Lucas?
Hello everyone, I'm Lucas, the Internet of Things advisor in China. So I'm helping companies and startups creating the business strategy, the development roadmap, and actually doing some architecture work and conducting trainings on IoT and IoT using AWS Cloud, in more specific.
Cool. Christoph?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Christophe. I'm from Belgium. I'm co-founder of MBeatle IDE, which is a new IDE for microcontrollers.
Cool. Umesh?
Yeah, so I'm Umesh from Pune, India, and it's been 10 years. I do embedded software, hardware, cloud, content creation, everything a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Well, the topic today is finding your niche, so maybe you'll be able to benefit from this. Navdeep? Navdeep, you want to say hi?
Oh, hey, hi. I'm from Bangalore. I work on the domain of electronic design engineering, so mostly into this radio frequency communication stuff. Yeah.
Great. And then everybody who's on the chat, if you just want to say hi by putting your name in and what you do, where you are, that would be great, just so we know you a little bit better. So as I mentioned up at the top, earlier, the topic today is going to be finding your niche. We've already gone through who we are and said hello. There's been this thread. This is a little bit of a pickup of last week's topic about how you figure out, whether it's better to specialize or generalize. And this started because, in part, I was moderating a panel at DesignCon that was talking about shifting left signal and power integrity analysis, so that PCB designers started taking some of that on, which made me start thinking that we're talking about having superhuman engineers. And then there was an interesting comment by this member of the community, HXH, who said he got a job offer at Oracle working on UEFI, which is highly specific. And that sort of evolved into a conversation around whether or not it was too specific for somebody to get started. So we've got a lot of really experienced talent on the call right now, people who've been very successful as professional technologists. And I kind of just want to get a feel for me and for others in the community and others on the call, how you found your niche. Was it just happenstance? Did you just know that you loved what you were doing at the beginning? And then how did you sort of iterate on that to find your specialization? So, Petter, since you suggested this up front, what was your experience? How did your journey go? Did you always know that you loved hardware engineering and you were just lucky and you were just passionate about it and just kept pulling the thread? How did it go for you?
Thank you. The truth is that I haven't found my niche yet. To know what to do and what I want to do is the hard question. I'm freelancing hardware design engineer, and I still don't know if I am going to do it for the next 20 years or just for 2 years on. I don't know. I would like to know how to find a niche, and as I said, I am quite universal and not specialized at all.
Yeah.
So I would like to know to hear opinions from the other colleagues, and maybe I will find a clue.
Yeah, no, this is a really good topic. And like I said last time, in a weird way, we're all working in a niche of a niche, right? We're all, subsets of technology working on embedded and IoT stuff. But within the niche of the niche, there is so much to do that you get spread really thin really easily, right? So it's really easy for a hardware engineer to all of a sudden have to jump into firmware, right? And I think this is sort of what we started talking about last time, which is, okay, well, all of a sudden, if you want to be successful, you've got to know all of these different disciplines, and you sort of feel like a jack of all trade, master of none. Mike, you weren't here last time, so I'd be interested to get your perspective on this. Like, how do you focus yourself, but at the same time don't get too pigeonholed? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, the obvious thing is as you focus yourself more and more into a really tight specialty, the less number of opportunities there are out there. You're shrinking your market, but you're also making yourself really stand out in that market. So I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer there. Now, if you're building a business and you're trying to keep 1,000 engineers occupied, then you need to be sure your market is big enough. But you're right, if you're an individual, you don't need 100 different clients in a year, right? You just need a handful that are the right fit, and you want to stand out with them. I used to, when I started in engineering and I was focused on, back at the time, what we called machine-to-machine communications and things like that, I found an area that there was a large problem in the industry. I felt in a niche industry still as well, but it was just around reliable communications and we were running wires all over utilities and plants, and you had ground issues and things like that. And I chose to really specialize for a while in an area of grounding and isolation and data communications like that. And I thought, and that worked well for me. One thing I advised a lot of my engineers over time was, and you're all kind of have to be necessarily somewhat horizontal, but pick one topic that you really want to be expert on and really do a deep dive on one particular topic, something that you think is interesting, or so it isn't to say just be a specialist just in that topic, but do pick one thing to be really expert in and go deep, write papers on it, get involved in things, and that might change over time. 2 or 3 years into it, you might find another area, and so it's not obvious to me, and I'm still trying to figure it out, just like Peter as well. Now that I've kind of crossed into business and technology, it's made the pool even wider in terms of where I can spend my time. But I do think, as you specialize more, you're going to have a smaller number of opportunities, but you're going to stand out more and be more differentiated within that space. So it's trying to figure out how to adjust that dial, if you will.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it also depends on how you define success a little bit, right? Like, if you want to be, to your point, if you want to be a freelancer, that looks a whole lot different than if you have 100 or 1,000 person company. And then if you're a freelancer, what's successful to you? Speaking of that, Lucas, I mean, you live this, right? You're super specialized in what you do, and you're a freelancer. What's been your experience? What's been your journey?
It was rough. It's still very rough. And speaking about being extremely specialized, as I kind of am, that is a huge risk that I see. But basically, my fate is closely related to AWS, right? Because I specialized in AWS at basically extremely deep level of technical understanding. But if AWS goes out of the market or decide to shut down the IoT service suite, then that puts me in a tough spot. So my personal view is that if you're a freelancer, then you should stand out of the crowd. So you need to take that risk to specialize in something that will make your niche so small that you are the only one or one of the very few people. And then it is very easy for you to basically stand out and be recognized. But at the same time, you need to have a backup plan, like I do. My strategy or my plan currently is that I will someday transition from the hardcore technical stuff more to the business advisory or maybe even the product creating market fit for a product. So like basically navigating away from the technology, because technology demands that you are constantly learning, that you need to be up to date with most recent trends. And as in my case, my fate is not in my hands, it's in the hands of AWS, so to speak. So yeah, like I would recommend to gamble, like pick something that you really love, focus on that, but always have that plan B in case something gets out of the status that you want to be in.
Yeah, I was thinking about this before the call about anybody who's been involved in AI, particularly like large language models, right? Like all of a sudden, their world in the past few years has just been accelerated, more so than they ever thought it would probably happen if you were already existing in that space. And then what do? There's things are happening so quickly in that space right now that you can't. It's not possible to keep up, right? And I think that is one of the challenges. Where do you spend your time? How do you know where is a good place to invest? I guess, like you said, Lucas, it's in a lot of cases it's a gamble. You're like putting bets down and saying, okay, well, this is where I'm gonna invest my resources, which is our time is the resource all of us have, right? And just hope it kind of works out.
Yeah, well, the time is the most limited resource that we've got, and that's why you need to be very careful with taking those bets. But at the same time, if you won't take that bet, then you lose out of the huge opportunity, in my opinion.
I'm going to ask Umesh real quick because he's got an interesting perspective on this, given that he's built a business. But just from my own personal experience, I mean, part of the reason that I'm in this position that I'm in right now is that I didn't see the place where I was betting as being a viable solution long term, right? So it's like you got to take a shift, make the leap, and then see what happens. And you're right, it's tough. It's tough, Lucas. Umesh, what's your perspective? How do you find your niche? And I mean, well, why don't you explain what your niche is first, and then tell us how you got there, Umesh?
So this is really difficult question. What is your niche? This niche word I learned very late in my life. As a technologist, I'm kind of person who just jump from one technology, doing one thing to doing other things, to doing something else, right? Because that's what solution and product development demands. But because with very limited business experience, I started this businesses. When I came into business, when I tried several things, then I heard this word. What is niche, right? Otherwise, I never know. So I still don't know. That's the truth. I don't know what's my niche is, and that is maybe because I feel the field that we are dealing with right now, this advanced technologies, They are so complex. I mean, if you just take an IoT, there's a hardware aspect, there is a cloud aspect, and then there is a, the software aspect, and there is a networking aspect. How can you just say like what you are really special expertise in? Because I still don't know. So, and I don't want to answer something which I don't know in front of experts. But I would just add my point of view to the discussion today. Is I'm not a very genius person, first of all, and this is what I learned very early on in my life. I'm not a genius. I'm pretty average, and I have to make it work with whatever the talent that I have. Okay, and I started realizing very early on that something that the one thing was good is because I have this natural inclination toward electronics. I was very clear I will do something with electronics. Okay, but it is difficult. That also I realized. Even back then in 2008 and 9, electronics wasn't that hard because it was all analog electronics, right? The ICs were not that complex. There were circuits. There were very little programming. The aspect of programming was not even there in analog products. If you take your television in 2008 and 9 back then, but then how the technology has changed over last 10 years. Now programming become a part of the product, which is very very important part of the product. And then deep learning, AI, IoT, and these all things are integrating, and every 4 or 5 years I see so enormous pressure is there about what to learn and what to specialize in. My suggestion to anybody who, I mean, if I you know capable enough to give somebody a suggestion, but I think always find the application that you have around you, and then choose to work on things which has an application. So just right now in our server there was a discussion happening around Rust, and last year I spent 5 days to research about Rust and porting Rust to STM32. I ended up wasting 5 days, and there were no application because I was not in a position to create YouTube video, because take YouTube video, to create one YouTube video takes 15 to 20 days, very, very high quality, right? And I can learn it and I cannot document it because I don't have a time. So it was a wasted time, which is what Lucas says, you take a gamble. So find the application, like where you're going to use it immediately, and learn, I mean, implement and try to play around which has an immediate applications, okay, around you. And try to learn about economy also, where you are, what industries are around you, what people will benefit you in your life, like joining our Discord server, say for example. One of the reason for me is I could talk to Peter if I have something with the hardware. If I have FPGA, I can talk to Navdeep. If I have something with AWS, I can talk to Lucas, because talent and expertise access is also become very very difficult right now. So my opinion is find the applications and jump onto that. Play a little bit of gamble. Don't go too much in something. Don't get carried away by technology, because as Lucas said, it's very fair point. You've been controlled by bigger companies. Um, I have many people say like, why don't you create full-time content? That's where the problem is, because I feel very insecure, because I've been controlled by, let's say, programs or maybe platforms, right? It's too risky. And so I think take the applications, work on that, and then go with the flow, right? Don't go with the flow. Don't lose your flow. Understand what the economics is, what products, and then the thing find its way. I still don't know where I want to go, but I'm very happy with my journey, because if I, let's say, the good thing about embedded is, if I get tired of, or maybe if I lose my motivation to software, I pick up hardware. And the good part is, I mean, I leave my shame aside. I don't care who expert says what the hell this guy do this nonsense hardware and then put up online and make. I don't care all this bullshit. I just say, okay, this is what I produce. This is what I do. Okay, and I want to share it with the people. So what I share usually is, which is basically going into experiment, right? So I think this is the approach, is a good approach. It's hard to develop that because you have to really take a shit a lot of times. But I think that's, I mean, that's why I can able to do what I do, and I'm happy. I'm happy. That's what I can say.
Hey,
If
everybody.
I may, I would like to react to Umesh, because Umesh said important thing. Umesh said that he can't see him as an being expert, and I think it's a general issue of all sane engineers as we are, because we think that we are not skilled enough and we are not experienced enough to be seen as experts. But maybe we already found our niche, but we can't see in there because we don't think we are good enough.
Yeah, I was actually just going to bring that up, which is for you, Petter, maybe it's because we're all in a field that moves really quickly in a lot of different areas at the same time. So I think a lot is maybe a matter of perspective. If you think that you're not an expert, right? Well, ask that to anybody else who needs to design a PCB, right? They're like, oh yeah, Petter's a complete expert, right? But I do, yeah, I do think that, it really depends on how you look at it. And Umesh said something interesting, like, okay, well, now I'm just going to jump over into software, if I'm not in hardware. Well, I mean, I'm not sure that you would be an expert in both of those things at the same time, but in certain areas you are. I think it's just the fear of potentially getting left behind. What did you want to say, Umesh?
I want to say that even when I work with clients, when they ask me, I want to be the best solution, I want to be, very, very responsive, it's a world class, but in India I don't want to pay that much, the Western products. So I kind of have the same philosophy even to build product. I ask them what you want. Okay, what size you want, what functionality you want, what the weight, where you want to deploy. That's it. If that suits well, I just take the gamble and I create for them, and I tell them, see, look at this, in this contract you said you want this things, just same like with the career, right? Just build that, and if you're not happy with it, I could deliver you, but it's a prototype, right? Or you can go for production. Even in a production you can have a the version 1, version 2, you have your iterations. You don't like me, you leave it to me. You can leave me anytime you want. We are not getting married, right? So you can leave me, but that's how I get the project. So I see, even learning technology, even chasing clients, everything is the same thing for me. I just jump into it and I do it. But one thing is for sure, that the pressure is very high when you change the technologies a little bit.
Yeah.
So first 5 to 6 days is very much of a pressure. I can't explain this to you how it feels. It looks like you are starting from zero, and every moment you sometimes feel like you are an idiot on the planet, but that's okay. Now I have written down on a piece of paper that I'm already an idiot, so I don't care. So
um, Go ahead, Christoph.
Yeah, I think, Umesh, that you're suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect.
yeah.
It's an effect that, people who have limited knowledge, they think they are very competent, while people like you, who actually are competent people, underestimate your own competence, because you are aware of the vast size of all there is to know, the vastness of the knowledge in your field, and because you know all the things that you don't know, you think like you
don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, in
And
fact, you're very knowledgeable. I mean, I've seen some of your videos, and it's really great.
yeah, I think once you accept, like I kind of learning about psychology and Karl Pott's book, and there's all things like 2 years back, and then I unsubscribe everything. I want to be like an idiot, all candies my candies, right? I can jump onto anything I want. I don't like it something, leave it for some times, not to leave it for forever. Nothing, I leave it. If you have 4 tables, okay, have every table, every failed project, keep it there. And I am still okay to live with that, all four projects. And you never know which Sunday pop up in your mind, okay, let me take this, radio receiver doesn't work, maybe some displays is not working, and I kind of jump onto that. So I think That's my personal way.
So I have a firstly, if you're in the chat, if you're somebody who's not on video or audio, feel free to drop your thoughts, questions, or comments into the chat, and I'm monitoring it, so I'll pull them into the discussion. The person I want to ask right now is Navdeep, because speaking of specialization and niches, an FPGA developer is like way down that path. So how did you find yourself there? Somebody your age being in working with FPGAs is a little bit anomalous in the first place.
So thanks for asking that. I did not go niche into anything as such specifically, being in early part of the career, right? Electronics, certain that's something I should get into. Early on, I was very interested in that, and so I was pretty sure I want to take an undergrad degree in that, and like study about it and work on this domain. That's what I did, and then at some point I realized it's necessary to go all in into one thing and know that particular stuff, and also at the same time not knowing only that, but know the vastness, like what all are there in the market, what's running currently in the industry and stuff like that. So I started with that vastness and just trying to build that niche. I certainly feel at some point in the middle of the career, a person should be quite niche, and as you grow older, the neuroplasticity, like ability to learn things, of course reduces, and it's hard to be a very generalist or get a role stuff like that. So further going on in the career, it's always good to go niche is what I think. And so trying to get into one particular stuff and capitalize on that. Yeah.
So let's talk about FPGAs in that technology area for a second. So obviously you've worked with AMD Xilinx, Vivado. I'm sending you a PolarFire kit, right? It's a whole different tool chain. Like, how do you, when you look at your role now, at your job now, and then the short to midterm, right? Okay. Do you ever go, oh man, Xilinx just got bought by AMD. Most of the time when these mergers happen, they screw it up completely. So maybe I better start learning about PolarFire because at least that seems a little bit stable. And now you're onto a whole different tool chain, and you don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to these two different environments. Like, what's your thought process there?
Okay. I always feel, I usually start with the bottom up approach, right? While going and jumping into things. Top down is of course one thing where you get to see everything, whatever exists as a technology. So for example, if it's a microcontroller stuff or FPGA stuff, you first see how the application is, what the application is, and then go down one by one level from there until you reach hardware also. But what I tried early on with the FPGAs is to know like fundamentally how it works on a silicon level, and how the tool chain are built up further on top of that. So be it Xilinx or PolarFire or anything, I definitely won't be able to understand the tool chain fully, and once these concepts are understood, right, how FPGA works, and after all, once an engineer wants to build something, it's for certain application, right? So that application will require certain blocks. So say you are building IoT application, and then after all, what it requires is network, then certain processing power, and then if you want to take sensor data and run some algorithms also. So these are the dots, and connecting them is fundamentally true. But while you while on different tool chain, or if the tool is of different vendors, right, that essentially doesn't matter, because these concepts are understood and how it works is understood, right? So once I know how I can build how I can implement a finite state machine in PolarFire or AMD FPGA, or how I can implement a FIR filtering algorithm in any FPGA, right? Fundamentally, it remains same, and I can go to their community and say how to do it through your tool chain, or go to their website and get help, or talk to some people, or like get customer support and ask how will your tool chain help in me building this application of that. Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, I guess I'm going to start with Petter, but then also Mike and Nimesh is like, is the specialization, is the niche, what Navdeep just understood, is the thing that you're referring to, Petter, about the technology or maybe the application area, right? Because that's essentially what Navdeep just said. He's like, if you understand the technology, it becomes more about applying the application of the technology. So is your concern that, Petter, when you bring this up, that you're, is it more about the application space or is it more about like the fundamentals, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when I said that I am quite an universal engineer, I meant that I can be oriented in a new problem rather quickly. And even though I'm still being asked by the prospective customers, have you ever designed with that and this? I can't understand such a question because I'm able to learn quickly. I'm able to study documentation. I'm able to implement new things. So yeah, and once I would be, if I am very narrow, like sharpened and very narrow oriented, then how should I answer the questions? Have you ever designed with that?
Right.
99% of the answers would be no, I haven't, and I'm not able to do it because I'm too specialized. So no, I'm not specialized. I'm able to learn, I'm able to implement, I'm able to study. I will do it for you easily. So this is the situation.
Yeah, but you can flip the conversation and you can specialize in some domain. Because I believe that what Brandon said about application, that basically refers to a special domain and that you are extremely good at. And then you will be known as the one and only person to go if you are, let's say, in the like security of the satellites, for instance, right? You are designing hardware for satellites to make them secure because everyone knows that satellites are not secure, and that's going to be a huge issue very shortly. So if you position yourself as an expert in that field, then someone that needs remote control to TV, they will not even consider you as an option. And that's actually extremely good for you because people that will reach out to you, they will know what they are buying upfront. So they are already pre-sold and you can just give them the price. And they are not asking if you ever done it because you've got a track record and publications proving the point. So based on my example, when customers like reach out to me on LinkedIn mostly, like they don't ask me if I ever work with AWS, for instance, right? Because it's obvious for everyone that I work with AWS, and actually I work with AWS IoT Service Suite only, like not only, but this is the exclusive part. So if you position yourself as a hardware designer for spacecraft, for satellites, for instance, and create content on that, no one will check your knowledge if you know what satellites even is, right? Because that's the obvious. And from my perspective, that gives me a huge advantage over like general AWS solution architect, right? That is not specialized at all. Because when someone reaches out to me, they know what they are buying upfront. So this is what I could recommend from my perspective, that if you want to get out of that constant learning cycle that never ends, basically, then you need to find your domain and focus on that domain, taking risk that the domain might be, wrong for whatever reason, but at least you will mitigate that pushback. But you never worked in the space sector, right? Like, no, I haven't, and then that's the end of story. Or you can just like you can decide it instead of letting your customers to decide. You can decide upfront and focus on that, and that will attract proper customers. Well, at least this is how it is working on my side.
Awesome. I do want to say hello to Marcus Webster, who's in the audience. Marcus is a recruiter, so he's been helping out a little bit. If you are looking for work or if you know of any jobs, you make sure you use the job part of the community because Marcus can help out with that. So I don't know. I think this is a really good topic. As far as niches go, unfortunately, it seems like we're all always going to be chasing that, right? Looking for that balance and trying to figure out where our time is best spent. So, any closing thoughts, Samesh? Do you have anything you want to add? Anybody else want to throw anything in on this topic?
I mean, I said earlier, like I jump onto things, but I think there's one more interesting thing. Like let's say if I have an FPGA project where I need to have an FPGA skill set, or maybe the high voltage engineering or something. It usually what I do is I listen to the customer who come to me. It doesn't mean that I jump onto that project, okay? But right now I worked on very specialized area. I'm talking about the application area, not about the technology. Okay, like when, let's say if I'm working on solving problem on, let's say, industry 4.0, where I have to use a same piece of technology like Bluetooth beacon or Zigbee or something, maybe cloud 1 or 2, maybe it will change based on what the client will say to develop around the solution. But it doesn't mean that I would go into the different application area like space or high voltage engineering or something. I don't do that. So I don't know whether we can call that as a niche, because when we say niche for the skill sets, it's a different. But when you say for the application area solution, it changes, right? So the use, I mean, a piece of technology, let's say beacon, how you use in a consumer product is very different than using beacon in the factory environment, right? So now if I would have a previous working experience to deploy the beacon into the industry environment where I have a manufacturing floor where I have, let's say, 150 CNC machines running on and highly mechanical noisy environment, I cannot able to build some, consumer electronics or retail beacon based product. So I think that's what I want to make this a little bit distinction. The technology may not change, but its application area might change. But I still listen to people. Like I listen what they have to say, but it doesn't mean I work. I choose very specific area. Yeah.
I actually forgot one really important comment here, which was to Christoph. So actually, a lot of this is happening right before our eyes, right, with Christoph. So he has this IDE, right, and then as part of promoting and marketing the IDE, he decides that he wants to build a kit. So now he's starting to do hardware design, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, like, wow, I know a lot about hardware design, right? So like, what's your take on this whole thing, Christoph?
Well, I'm a hardware designer by education,
By background.
so that helps. And in my previous job, before I started doing Embeddle, I was doing hardware design as my daily job. And yes, I have abandoned, let's say, hardware design for quite some years because I was building Embeddle, and that took all my time. But then I have to say thank you to Peter, because Peter introduced KiCad to me and helped me to get started with KiCad. Because when I was doing my hardware design in my previous job, I was using another software, Eagle, and it works. Eagle works, but I had some issues with that software, I remember, and I wanted to try something new. So with the help of Peter, I could kickstart into using KiCad, and I have it in my fingers now. I loved it. I love the software. Then this is the little board I made. It's the
it exists now.
famous
Tiny
Scarab board. So this is just the prototype, of course. So I'm now trying to make a box for it, an enclosure, and that I can also produce in China, so that we're gonna have a real product, basically.
Well, so this is exactly my point right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And actually,
Yeah.
it bounced back and forth 2 times in your discussion, which
Mm-hmm.
was you started
Yeah.
as a hardware engineer and then you moved into the IDE space, and now you're
Yeah,
designing
yeah.
a board that you're thinking you're going to sell, in China.
Yes.
And so it's like, the ability to easily get, I don't know, pulled in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
direction, right, can take you out of a niche. And
Yeah.
then back into a place where you're no longer niche anymore, right? Because your
Mm-hmm.
depth of knowledge may not be as great as better
Yeah.
in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
where in the, it's all.
I think.
You go ahead.
Yeah, I think. Well, you need to kind of a base knowledge of the domain, of course, and I had it from my previous work as a hardware engineer. But if you have this basic knowledge about the domain, and even if you abandon the domain for a while, you can move back into it. What's crucial, I think, is it means like you're leaving your comfort zone. You're trying to get into something, either something new or something that you haven't done for a long while. And you're going to invest time in getting to use a new software or to, update your knowledge about certain things. So you're going to invest a lot of time in learning. And the risk here is that you invest your time in the wrong things. I remember when I wanted to start developing this board, and I hadn't done hardware design in more than 5-6 years, I was a bit scared that I would choose the wrong software to restart, my hardware designing skills. That I would invest my time in a software that turns out to be, not good or not what I want, what I need. So I asked around to the experts, and I found Peter, and then I knew that, okay, Peter convinced me to use KiCad, and he had sound decent arguments for that. And then I knew, like, okay, if I'm going to invest my time in learning this, it's going to be helpful, and it will help me to reach my goal. Then later on, when I wanted to start developing a box for this, maybe I can share my display now, because let me share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, great. So let me open Autodesk Fusion. So I never used this software before, never. But I asked
Fusion,
around.
is it? You were telling FreeCAD.
So in this software, I developed the box. Let me show you guys. There it is. Here's the box. And I'm going to remove the cover here so you can see what's inside. So I never used this software, and when I knew I wanted to design a box, an enclosure for my PCB, and I also knew that I wanted to design it in such a way that it's manufacturable, that I can get it manufactured, for example, a GLC PCB, and that it can become part of the product. So I've never done this before, so I asked around to some friends and experts and fellow engineers, and somebody advised this software to me, Fusion 360. So then I started learning it, and now I have the software enough in my fingers. I mean, I know how to use the basics, and this is now what I designed. So the next step will be to order this at GLC PCB and get it actually manufactured. So it's challenging because I've never done this before, but it's also a lot of fun.
Where, how far out do you think you are from, or we are from, ordering these kits?
I'm aiming for like 1 month.
Okay, very
So
cool.
I'm now going to test this thing. It just arrived a few days ago, and I still need to test it. Then, based on that, I might or might not have to make some changes. Then next, I give it my priority now. So I hope as soon as the Chinese New Year has finished that I can order this box at GLC PCB and also the second version of the board, because I already made some more changes. And then if everything works, then it's ready. Then it's ready for production.
Awesome, very exciting. Well, good stuff. Anybody else have anything to add about the niche conversation? Trisha, anyone else? Joseph, I know you said that you have something over here in the chat. Anybody else?
So probably my take on this would be like if professionally, if you are working and you are trying to change your job, I think that would like shape your career very much into the niche sometimes. So your career would probably shape you more comparatively to your decision or like your interest. So I would recommend like basically choose a good job where you can have like when you're going into a new job, like ask around like the technical people, like what kind of projects you work on, what kind of things you will be working on. So better like you can focus your niche as well and focus on it, or like you can get the idea of like, okay, this is my what I might be working on. Because some people find their niche in the when working. So no matter like how much like effort personally they put it, I don't think so. Some people find it because some of the sectors, like previously mentioned, some of the sectors are like commercial sectors, some of them are industrial, some of them are aerospace, and then there is a space grade. So some these space grade and aircraft grade things you can never do it personally. So the tools are never available on the market. And then like some of the things like I think Navdeep works on like millimeter antenna technology as well. He has an understanding of that. So that is also quite niche, I think, and those tools are completely like nobody has ever heard of them. And like it's completely like very niche, I would say. Like I think so these kind of things will like your career would shape you basically. So if I don't know how it will apply to the freelancer. Maybe like an experienced freelancer who had already found his niche, like he would have his own clientele because of his experience in the market. He would have like made connections to people. So they like then he would get a like connections, and then he would get a place to work and figure it out. So I would say like choose a good career. So you have to have a good career if you want. So complete freelancer, I wouldn't know how they would shape their career. There would be lots and up and downs, I would say, for them because like I don't know how their think process would be like thinking process. So it would be very hard for them, like if they want to make a niche of themselves, because some tools are completely unavailable. So most of the problem would stem from there, and it would be like you cannot afford it personally. Some of the tools, if you even take Altium, I think you can afford. Some of the OrCAD tools are completely unavailable. Yes, so like those would be very costly for personal use. So freelancer, I don't know how they could afford those tools and say like I am comfortable working with them. So open source tools are very important, but open source like only when there is requirement, the open source community will come up. So these kind of very niche environment tools are never available. So you can never be a freelancer some of the time. So you are stuck into the industry. So I would say like career, choose your career very well. So even when you're changing the job, I would say like make a correct decision on the job you will choose, because you might regret the niche you have gotten into, and that niche might go away very soon in this changing industry, I would say.
Awesome. Well, we got T-minus 10 minutes left. So there are some questions in the Discord and the forum channels. There's a question about LVGL. I pinged Aditya and Abhishek about it. But if you have anything to add to, porting LVGL to Platform IO, check it out. There's also a question from Marvy that's sort of hanging out there. It was really broad, and I think I'll let him know he should probably be a little bit more specific. But I think the real thrust here is help shifting into RTOS, like starting your journey in RTOS. So anybody who's watching this or they're in the audience, if you have experience working with real-time operating systems, maybe jump into that conversation and see if you can impart some of your experience. And then higher up at the application layer, Flame Arrow was asking about the Tuya Smart platform. I'm not sure if anybody here has any experience with it, but he was having some API issues, but it's pretty specific. So those are just a few of the things that are happening in the server that could use some attention. And if you have any experience with them, jump on over and see if you can help out. I'm going to post the presentation slides in the session thread, so you can find the link in there. All right, so a couple of things. We switched the order of the videos. This week, we ended up going with Amesh's serial wire viewer. It's a data trace tool that's in the STM32 Cube IDE and also available for other ARM Cortex-M class devices. So if you're a firmware engineer and need help debugging, this is a good one to watch. It's up on the YouTube now, and we're going to start posting it out on social here in a little bit. Next week, we're going to move into getting started with Buildroot and menu config with Abhishek. A few weeks later, hopefully we can publish something with Lucas around MQTT, which there's a significant amount of buzz around lately, thanks to the folks over at HiveMQ. And then you can see there the stuff that we have further out around RTOS, programming, U-boot, etc. We've got this interesting thing that we're trying to set up right now. Back at the top, I talked about some of the activities that were coming up, especially as our schedule gets solidified. Really working with Pallav right now about getting a recording studio set up in Bangalore that we can leverage to do some teardowns. Mention that. So if you have any questions, shoot that to me. Also, as we said earlier, Marcus is here. And so check out the jobs channel. Just make sure that you got, if you have any jobs that you know of, or if you're looking for work, ping at Mark Webb. And then planning stages, office hours, mentioned that, learning hours. Umesh, do you want to say anything about learning hours or see if you can get any feedback from anybody about that segment?
Yes. So basically, if I have to say like what the plan for learning hours is, basically we are planning for 1 hour a week. So it's basically a 1 day in a week. It would be a Sunday, I believe. And basically we will start with architecture with an IoT, especially from the hardware side. And then we will go all the way as the episode goes by, from hardware to the protocols, common platforms. That also includes most common platforms, not always enterprise platforms, but have a balance of the creator maker sort of platforms plus enterprise platform, a decent balance. We don't want to go so much detail into the concept, but it's basically for anybody who want to know how something is done, right? So let's say if you use a MQTT or HTTP or any sort of protocol with one particular platform, and then rather than focusing on learning on the platform, if you just see the use case, then you understand how that particular thing is implemented with particular platform. So that kind of use cases that we will be discussing on. So that's what I'm planning for.
Great. Yeah. So this is going to be more of a tutorial, one-to-many sort of format, as opposed to many-to-many like we have here. So really picking platforms, picking general use cases, and then trying to show people how to get through those. So in our efforts to be focused on professionals, like if you're early or mid-career and you need help with some specific area or curious about how to get started and like protocols, like you said, this is a good place for you to go. And also, if there are any topics that you'd be interested in, feel free to submit them, send them to me, send them to Amesh, and we can talk about it.
Brandon, I think Joseph had a question in the chat, so he posted it, I think. So I think Umesh can answer that about some IoT resources. So what steps to take?
Sorry, where is it? Joseph. Oh, okay, yeah, Joseph, what's up? What are the steps and resources to take about infrastructure and understanding the cycle? It's a big question. We might have to answer it next time.
That's basically the learning hours is all about.
So, what's that?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Majorly. I want to actually know the steps to take to learn about industrial IoT. Basically, I'm seeing much opportunity it gets at my region. There's so many industries, they ain't actually using more of IoT technology. I guess they are still using the old technology. So based on the business and starting, I need resources and I need to know the infrastructural aspects you get, not just the implementation, from the hardware, the protocols that are being used in industries, industrial IoT, the application part. So I needed a guide on that. So I don't know if Umesh or anyone can help me on that.
Okay, why don't we make that a topic of one of these upcoming both learning hours and this? We can sort of use them in parallel, so more conceptual and then more hands-on. And I think between Lucas, Peter, everybody here, I think there's enough. Mike, especially, I think there's enough brain power here to at least point you in the right direction. So I'll update everybody when I get this schedule implemented and let you guys know when we'll tackle that. All right. What can we do to get 1% better by next week? We ask this every week, and I guess we're still operating at 100%. It's just like we have been for the last several weeks. If you have any suggestions, put them in the suggestion box or ping me. There's always stuff we can do to get better. So this is all of our thing. So yeah, let me know. And then, does anybody have anything they need from or have for the community? Here's your chance to throw it out there. Yep, go for it, Christoph.
Yeah, I need some help for button caps. So I already posted something in the dev channel for the tiny scarab. I need how to say. Wait, maybe I can share my display so you guys can see what I mean.
Yep.
Just a moment. Okay. Good. Can you see this? I'll maybe make it a bit larger. Okay. Good. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yep. So what you see here is what my buttons look like. They are mounted on the PCB, obviously, and then they poke through the box top panel. And what I want is a rubber button cap that would fit in the hole and that covers the button such that it gives a more premium feel to the product. And I know for sure that these button caps, they must exist and they must be extremely cheap. I mean, it's just plastic, rubber, silicone. But I just can't find the right ones. And I wonder if anyone here has some experience with, how to, with either these specific button caps or in general with membranes that you can put on a front panel for a PCB to make the PCB in a box that's like a real product.
Why don't we pull this into the server, and I'll take an action item, Christoph, to make sure that we get some follow up on this, because I know you've been asking about it. Yeah. So anyway, that's about the time we got. So we got resources here, and the next meeting is, as always, a week from today. So this is 2/16, and we'll see you guys all then. All right.
Ciao.
Cool.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a great week, guys.
Yep.
You too.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.